The DDP, the Devlin Doull podcast, and for everything that we love about the guy and the proficiency that he has expressed and does express in terms of his cricket countenance, Dooley, there's just a really simple thing about going to work, mate. If the game's today, you go today. If it's not today, it's probably tomorrow.
If you read back through the messages, Marty, and g'day to you, you said, are you available tomorrow? And that was this morning, my time. Now, that would suggest to me that tomorrow was Friday. If my Thursday, you're messaging me. So I think we just got a little bit of communication mixed up there, mate. For some, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, there's a game on tomorrow and I'm working. And it's nearly tomorrow already.
So thank you so much for staying up so late for us, brother. I love it. Pakistan versus Afghanistan. Why is it in the UAE?
Well, it's the Afghanistan home game. So Afghanistan have approached the UAE board or Sharjah cricket ground and said, can we hold them there? Obviously, playing cricket in Afghanistan at the moment is not exactly possible. So they've decided to play these three games here, three T20 games, Friday night, Sunday and Monday, all starting at 8 p.m. local time. So Afghanistan at full strength. Pakistan have left guys like Shaheen Shah Afridi, Babar Azam, Mohammad Rizwan, Haris Rauf left them at home, and they've picked a lot of the shining lights from the PSL that I've just come from. So there'll be some pretty exciting guys to look out for. So yeah, it's going to be still a decent series, and if they're sort of slowish turning wickets like we have seen at Sharjah and the last sort of few months, Afghanistan could be right in it.
Okay, we're looking at these two teams, of course. We're looking at all teams playing one days at the moment because the One Day World Cup they've actually confirmed those dates, mate, October through November. So you're going?
Yes, I'll be there, Marty. It'll be in India, obviously. So, that gives me, 2 months coming up and then probably another 6 weeks. So it'll be about 3.5 months to 3.5 to 4 months in India this year, which is always good.
Yeah, do you actually take time to see any of it this time, or is it just all work? Although I suppose you've been there so many times, you've actually probably done most of the sites, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done a lot of it. I've been looking over my schedule for the IPL, which has got 23 games in different venues, and then another 14 studio games back in Mumbai. So it's a fairly hectic schedule. Sort of a flight every second day at least, if not every third day, to a different venue. But look, you do get to see a little bit of it here and there. There's a great spot at the back end of the tour, and then you would have seen games up in Dharamshala, sort of at the foot of the back of the Himalayas, and it's just amazing up there. So I've got a couple of games up there to finish things off at the back end. That drive from Chandigarh up to Dharamshala is quite spectacular. Sort of heading into the mountains. There's parts of it there. You get down to Chennai and get down the coast, which is nice. And you do get out and about and just sort of get to explore. It'd be nice to do it again because we haven't been able to the last few years with obviously the UAE hosted the IPL, and then through COVID last year, still we weren't allowed out and about.
That has to be my favourite cricket ground in the world. I only saw it a few years ago, I think, for the first time when they had a match up there. And that's the one with the kind of like the little temple stand, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, exactly. And so it's a cracking ground. They had a few issues with the outfield. So I think one of the Australian games was due to be up there, and they took it off them and took it down to Delhi, I think it was. So so they've had a few issues, but hopefully by the end of the IPL, which is when Punjab Kings take their last two games normally up to Dharamshala, it should be fine again.
Simon Doull is with us. So the Aussies not going to Afghanistan. Are they going to host any cricket anytime soon?
I wouldn't imagine so. I think if they do host, it's likely to be... I mean, they did use a ground just outside of Delhi for quite some time, Afghanistan. And, talking to Jonathan Trott yesterday, actually, at the golf course. He's their coach. So, and he was saying that, it's not likely that they're going to host any cricket in the near future.
All right, let's talk about the awards last night. Amelia Kerr taking out the Debbie Hockley and Sir Richard Hadley going to Daryl Mitchell. So you think that these are the right two names for the two biggest awards in New Zealand cricket?
I think so. I mean, you can't get past what Daryl Mitchell did, in the last sort of, in the counting season. which kind of combines 2 seasons, doesn't it? But I mean, his time up in the Northern Hemisphere and then post that as well has just been phenomenal. He's really cemented that middle order spot. He doesn't do as much bowling as I think he possibly could do at different times, but he was exceptional with the bat. He's a gun in the field, and a really good slip catcher as well. And he's made that post to sort of his own now, and a very, very difficult man to keep out of any side at the moment. So I think that's absolutely right. And Mealy Kerr probably is the standout white fern at the minute with bat and with ball. There's the odd glimpse every now and then from some of the other senior players, but very rarely. And she continues to star with bat and ball, and is probably probably the person to lead this New Zealand side in the next 4, 5, 6 years when when Sophie and Susie are completely gone from the game. So she's probably the next cab off the rank to really lead this New Zealand side, I think.
Yeah, I'd endorse Daryl Mitchell in that as well, actually. I've sort of been saying for a little while that I think he should captain our white ball side. I just think he just brings everything I love about everyone that plays so hard for the Silver Fern, and he's just such a relaxed, composed dude as well. But you know what you're gonna get from him. And what I like about him, and we've talked about this before, mate, is that you've just got to keep your mind open and the door open for somebody that doesn't necessarily tick all the boxes from the young man age and goes through all the the kind of training camps and the franchise squad and all the sort of the normal process most people do. You can come late like he did.
Yeah, and sort of in and out a little bit too. I mean, he got very sporadic opportunities for a little while, didn't he? And then once he got a settled run in that side, I think you just saw the quality, and you saw how good he was. He's worked really hard on being more aggressive against spin as well. So that's a part of his game that he's still developing because of his sort of early cricketing pedigree and a lot of his early time growing up and playing in Perth. The quick bowling is never going to be an issue for him. You see him, I think he plays the quick bowling as well as anyone in that New Zealand side, but it was just probably the spin bowling that they were a little bit worried about, but he's worked incredibly hard on that. And he's got a terrific head on his shoulders, and again, he's sort of a late bloomer, but we'll still have plenty of years to come, I would imagine.
Doull is with us out of the UAE. He's calling cricket, of course, Pakistan versus Afghanistan, and that's the series starting tomorrow. Couple more things before we go, mate. And again, thanks so much for staying up late for us. Kane Williamson and just the form that he's been in. But just more importantly, the stats now where he scored the same amount of double centuries. When you start throwing names like Tendulkar around and Miandad around, and you're in that category, and he's scored more test centuries per test played than guys like Ponting, and he's got 28 of the goddamn things, and 11 of them have been overseas, and the records just keep getting broken. But we were talking to Henry Nichols about this yesterday, and I was really pleased for him getting his 200 not out, and he said batting at the other end with Kane, he said it's incredible. He said the guy's just like it in his own bubble. He's in his own world, and look, he's not even aware of me at the other end. I mean, this is what I love about him more than anything. The focus that he's got comes from practice, sheer hard practice, ladies and gentlemen, and tell all your kids. Yeah, he used to go into the garage with a tennis ball hanging off the ceiling, didn't he? He was one of the legends and just playing there all night. I just can't speak highly enough of how good he is, Simon.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he's owning, red ball cricket. He'll own all records from a New Zealand Test batting point of view for a long, long time, I would imagine. It's up to him how long he continues to play. And I hope, for New Zealand's sake, that he plays for a few more years yet to come. And he could conceivably end up with, 35 to 40 Test hundreds quite comfortably.
What? Yeah.
And when you think about those sort of numbers, that's right up there in the top echelon of players. Because he's not going to play, we talked a little bit about, when was it, during the series recently, I talked a little bit about Stuart Broad and Tim Southee, who both made their debuts in 2008. Now, Tim Southee's, where is he at? Maybe not far off 100 Test matches now.
Yeah.
And Stuart Broad's played something like 165 or 170 Tests. Yet they made their debuts in the same year. So that's how little cricket we play, Test match cricket, compared to what England play. So when you think about Kane is not going to play anywhere near the amount of Test cricket an Alistair Cook or a Joe Root plays, or even Ricky Ponting and the likes of Steve Smith and that sort of calibre of player. But his record just stands out, as right at the top of any of those that have played the game. And look, he's a genius, and I hope he continues to do those things. And when you think about winning games as well, and winning Test matches, I think is the key from Kane's point of view. He's there when it's tough, and he's there to get the job done and sort of see the job finished. And so I was really pleased for him, but also pleased for Tim Southee too. He had a pretty tough time of it when he first took over the captaincy, and things didn't quite go his way in the UK. So really pleased for him to get that Test series win under his belt too. He's been an incredible servant for New Zealand cricket, Tim Southee, and to get the captaincy and then to go through a pretty rough start to it, I was really pleased for him too.
Look, this Test series season here in New Zealand really took off. I mean, having England here, I mean, that just creates its own headlines. They bring their own travelling circus, don't they? And then to get walloped in Tauranga and then to turn it around in that extraordinary finish in Wellington, which, then got a little bit lost after the first Test against Sri Lanka and winning on the last ball. And then, of course, to beat them inside 4 days. I mean, that's 3 really comprehensive wins. I suppose the naysayers always say, oh, it's in New Zealand. But isn't that, India win tests in India when they're playing Australia. This is the whole home advantage thing. The Aussies are almost unbeatable at home. I just hate that argument. Hate it.
There is very few teams in the world now who don't own their home patch and struggle away from home. Very few teams can go away to any of the top sort of 6 Test playing nations and do well and win. England have found a way when they went to Pakistan through playing, some very, very aggressive cricket. Obviously, they tried the same thing in New Zealand. They won one, lost one. But yeah, look at home patch is home patch. And you look at what Bangladesh have just done to England in white ball cricket. They're tough to beat at home. Bangladesh are tough to beat at home because they know the conditions so well. So that's kind of, that World Test Championship. That's how you win or get to the final in that. You defend your home patch, and that's what New Zealand did well in the previous edition of the World Test Championship. Yeah. Defend that home patch well, and I think we picked up a win against Pakistan and the UAE through that cycle, and a win in Sri Lanka through that cycle as well. So you win a couple of 3 away and defend your home patch, and you'll be fine.
All right, finally, historical perspective put on. Today in 2018, Cam Bancroft got caught with some sandpaper and a cricket ball in the 3rd Test in Cape Town. Happened 5 years ago today, mate.
Wow. And he's the one that really hasn't come back, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's the one everyone else has kind of come back from this. And he was hung out to dry. And look, what will be interesting through this whole saga is when David Warner is done and dusted and finished, and he decides to spill the beans and write the book. And I think people are waiting for that at the moment. He's obviously holding out because that's his bread and butter is Cricket Australia. But I think the time will come at some stage in the next sort of 4 or 5 years when that's all over for David Warner, and the truth will finally come out, which I think we kind of know most of the truth and most of what happened, but nobody's ever been prepared to say it. And,
that's what I want to know. I want to know the thought process, mate. They're saying that, and I'm sure that they'll point the finger at the Yappies and say that they were doing it or whatever, which is irrelevant. I mean, but I want to know.
Well, look, everyone was doing it, Marty. That's the key thing. Everyone was trying to do something one way or another, but I don't know that everyone was carrying bits of sandpaper around with them, trying to scuff the ball up in that way, shape, and form. And one of my biggest issues was they hung Bancroft out to dry.
Yeah.
But they also the bowlers saying, "Oh, we didn't know what was going on." I mean, just absolute lies from Stark and Lyon and Hazelwood and the like, and Pat Cummins. It's just because if they don't know what's going on with the ball when they are bowling it and they're getting it to reverse swing, if they don't know, then there is something wrong. And so it was just. I was really disappointed in it because I think if everyone had come out and said, listen, yeah, we made a stupid mistake. Cam was the guy we sort of decided was going to do it. And we're just trying to get a bit of an advantage. And it was dumb. It was stupid. If they'd all done it, I don't think they would have suspended them all for 2 years.